saying my soul and mind is telling me I'm a girl. No. Hasatan demons are telling you that. Not the Ruach. Those who embrace the transgender ideology pretend that men can morph into women or that a woman can morph into men, but their claim is false. It is physiologically impossible to change a person's sex, since the sex of each individual is encoded in genes, XX if female, XY if male. Yahweh created this. He didn't make a mistake. He knows what he's doing. Surgery can only create the appearance of other sex, explained Dr. Richard P. Fitzgibbons, MD, Philip M. Sutton, PhD, and Dale O'Leary, in a well-documented study. See, here's some people, who speak in truth. It only gives you the appearance, like a transvestite. There's times you can't tell a transvestite's this or not. You think it's that, and it's really not. They're dressed up like that. Just like with a transgender. Sometimes you don't know. It only gives the appearance. You're still, whatever you were born at birth, that's what you are. But this transgender, you just give an appearance of it. Number 6, it warps manhood and womanhood. Transgender ideology claims that biological reality does not determine one's sex. Feelings do. Key word. Again, feelings. Do not, what's the word say? Don't trust. Don't lean on your own understanding. We must trust Yahweh. Therefore, the difference between male and female, much like the clothing we wear, are separate from our identity and are constantly in flux. Manhood and woman are mere labels used to describe what we see, but lack any substantial basis. Feminist ideologue, lesbian, and writer Simone de Beauvoir affirmed that one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. The whole point of feminism is not so much to eliminate the so-called oppressive male class, but to abolish every differences between the sexes. Here we see how the homosexual, transgender, and feminist movements are allied. They share the same final goal, the destruction of male and female, manhood and womanhood. Number 7, it destroys reason. A fundamental part of logic and reason is the idea that things have a purpose. The purpose of our eyes, for example, is to provide us with sight. The wings of a bald eagle exist to provide it with flight. Our lungs exist in order for us to breathe and absorb oxygen. Ears exist in order to what? Hear. Primary purpose of human sexuality is to procreate. However, in transgenderism, like homosexuality and feminism, deny this principle and therefore attack human reason itself, which is a form of deliberate madness. Notice, it's deliberate demonicism, if you want to call it that. Remember I said, again, J.S. said this, my soul and mind says this. There's no rationale to it. Transgenderism is self-destructive. The homosexual movement shatters lives. Regret, despair, and suicide is a common among those who adopt the T of the LGBT lifestyle. Now, later on I will be talking about suicide, and the statistics are high. Now, Walt Hayer, a man who regrets having lived like a woman for many years, said, "I knew I wasn't a real woman, no matter what my identification documents said. I had taken extreme steps to resolve my gender conflict, but changing genders hadn't worked. It was obviously a masquerade." And one of the teachings I did it with Halloween recently. I'm teaching what's Hasatan? He He masquerades, right? The messenger. He masquerades. I did that in the last teaching. Transgenders not only annihilate their birth identity, Heyer explained, they destroy everyone and everything in their wake. Family, wife, children, brothers or sisters, and career. Certainly this demonstrates the behavior of someone hell-bent on total self-destruction and self-harm. Jazz is a perfect example. You can watch him live his life out because this show's been on a few years. And like I said, this year he transitioned completely. He had that surgery. The stress involved with living a lifestyle that violates nature is apparent. According to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, 41% of those who identify as transgender in America have attempted to commit suicide. That's 25 times higher than the national average. %. It's almost half. That's high. 9. Where will transgenderism lead us? Trans species. If a man can pretend to be a woman, why can't he also claim to be a non-human? Such a delusional conclusion is regretfully here. It's called trans species, also known as furries or otherkins. People with species identity disorder consider themselves non-human and are featured at homosexual parades. The arguments used by the trans species movement to question their human status are essentially the same as those of the transgender movement. When feelings replace reality, logic dies. The intellect, the highest part of man, is degraded. The animal rules, and our godless culture pressures us to play along with these depraved fantasies. I won't play along with it. Neither will his people. Once these disorders are regarded as normal, what can possibly resist the unbridled passions from introducing greater forms of depravity? What will protect human reason from further destruction? And as you can see, if you really watch what's going on, you'll see it coming subtly, it's coming in more and more, and it's gaining ground. More and more transgenders are coming up. More and more of this is popping up. Like I said, Hasatan ain't going in the shadows anymore. He's opening it right up there for everybody to see now. The world is getting more and more demonic. Transgender ideology, this is number 10 by the way. Transgender ideology and religious persecution. Favored by secularism, that's the world by the way. Transgender ideology may spark the worst type of religious persecution as it imposes a perversion of the mind, beginning with small children. Remember I told you about those 3-year-olds? Well, we should teach about transgenderism through storybooks. Here are the penguins. We'll now call you Tom. Remember that when I said that earlier? Transgender ideology may spark the worst type of religious persecution as it imposes a perversion of the mind, beginning with small children, like I said. Those who oppose it are targeted by this new religion of equality, which obliges children to attend sensitivity training and gender indoctrination. Indeed, those who cheer the homosexual movement, whether they know it or not, are de facto servants of a new religion. Yeah. These transgenders and these homosexuals, their religion, Hasatan, that's their religion. Its doctrine, transgender ideology. It's a false god, radical equality, and reckless liberalism. Its ministers, leaders of the homosexual movement. Its acolytes, liberal media, immoral politicians, and sadly, dissident members of the clergy. Its inquisition, anti-discrimination laws that threaten order and peace. Its excommunication. Anyone who speaks the truth is labeled a homophobe or a transphobe. I don't answer to you. You want to call me a homophobe? You want me to call a transphobe? Then you're calling the Father the same thing, because He said it's demonic. because he made male and female. So if you're calling his people Israel a homophobe or transphobe, you're calling him that too. Just remember that, because as a watchman, I'm warning you, you're on a slippery slope. The Department of Veterans Affairs is moving to offer transgender veterans gender confirmation surgery. Secretary Denise McDonough announced at a Pride Month event in Orlando. McDonough stated that the move was the right thing to do and that it was part of an effort to overcome a dark history of discrimination against LGBTQ service members. A dark history? You're keeping it dark if you're allowing this. Again, the taxpayers have to pay for that. By the way, President Trump stopped that when he was in office, by the way. I'm just telling you. Okay? He did the right thing. Now, McDonough goes on to say, the VA will use the time to develop capacity to meet the surgical needs of transgender and allow transgender vets to go through the full gender confirmation process with VA by their side. We're making these changes not only because they are the right thing to do, but because they can save lives. He said, you're not saving lives, you're killing lives. You're killing them. The separation from Yehovah, that's death. That's eternal death. Do you want life or do you want death? You want immortality? Immortality? Or do you want death? You're not saving lives. You're killing them spiritually. The push for LGBTQ civil rights stalls in the Senate as advocates search for Republican support. And this is going on now. When the House debated the Equality Act, numerous Republicans came to the floor to warn of dire consequences if the bill were enacted. Representative Andrew S. Clyde, Republican from Georgia, said passing the bill would be opening the door for predatory men to prey on women in the most vulnerable of places: shelters, changing rooms, showers, restrooms. And by the way, where they've passed this stuff, that's what's happening. They're preying on them. Many others raised fears it would put biological women athletes at a competitive disadvantage against transgender women. Some said it would open the door to the government-funded abortions. By the way, as far as the female sports and all that, that's already happening. These transgender guys, these guys who think they're a female, have been allowed to participate in female sports. And yes, they did win some state titles. I've read some stories where they won state titles. Okay, just saying. At the Faith and Freedom Coalition's road to majority conference, Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee, launched an extended attack on the bill, claiming it would mean that boys who self-identify as female are competing against your own daughters and granddaughters in sports, and that domestic abuse shelters would have to take in men who self-identify as females. See, have to. The government wants to force it on you. Alfonso David, president of the Human Rights Campaign, the nation's most prominent LGBTQ right organization, said the main thrust of the advocacy has been combating misinformation. What misinformation? What misinformation? Misinformation. This is fact. This has happened. Abuse has happened in the females' locker rooms. What misinformation? The demonic information is you're turning yourself, trying to turn yourself into something you're not. You're not, like I said, the title of this, Transgenders, you're not who you think you are. Combating misinformation. I'm correcting that information because I'm telling you it's of the devil what you're doing. You transgenders, you homosexuals. And yes, many transgenders are homosexuals. Okay? period. Jazz is a perfect example of that. I know I was born biologically a boy, but in my mind, my soul, in my mind, I'm a girl, and he goes out and hugs and gets romantic with a boy. Not going all the way, but doing things a boy shouldn't do with another boy. Okay? You know, lovey-dovey, okay? And by the way, on that point, Jazz's boyfriend, he wanted to talk to his mom. His mom said, "You're gay. My son is not a homosexual. My son is not gay. You're gay." And Jazz was livid. Just flung that phone, you know. Truth hurts, Jazz. And any transgender is doing this. Truth hurts. 20 states are suing the government over guidance allowing biological males on girls' sports teams. So the states are starting to push back. Attorney generals from 20 states are challenging federal guidance issued by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, and the Department of Education, DOE, concerning issues ranging from transgender girls participating in girls' sports to transgender individuals using school and workplace bathrooms in accordance with their gender identity to being compelled to use another person's preferred pronouns. A woman complained to the management of a fitness gym after she was startled to see a man in the women's locker room. The Public Relations Department responded by saying guests may use all gym facilities based on their sincere, self-reported gender identity. In other words, if you're a man but believe you're a woman, you can use the women's locker room. Concerned by the gym's policy, the woman warned other women at the gym about the transgender person. Management asked her to stop. When she refused, the gym canceled her membership. So she speaks up. Get out of here. We don't want you. She speaks up. She has a right to speak up. And she's right with what she's saying. Get out of here. That's what they're telling her. That's what the government will tell you. William Bigelow, Planet Fitness bans woman for protesting man in locker room. Breitbart, March 8th, 2015. That's when it happened, in 2015. In the spring of 2005, Godsey, who now goes as Lana, Lawless, shattered the Division III Women's Championship hammer record by throwing 195 feet and 4 inches. This is a man who claims to be a transgender, is competing in a women's sport. He shatters the women's record. He's a man, more muscle, more, you know. That same year, wrestler David Rosen, who now went by the name Donna Rose, became the first transgender post-operative reassignment to take the mat in the women's division of the U.S. Open National Championship in Cleveland, winning a 158.75-pound freestyle match. A man against a woman. Now, the Olympics that just happened this year, 2021, a New Zealand weightlifter to become first transgender athlete at Olympic Games. This guy from New Zealand was actually allowed by the Olympic Committee to compete in the Olympic Games. This man who mutilated his body because he thinks he's a woman will now compete in the women's 87 kilogram category. Now, he didn't win, but just the fact that he was allowed to compete in the women's side of it is just demonic. We acknowledge that gender identity in sport is highly sensitive and a complex issue, requiring a balance between human rights and fairness on the field of play, said Karen Smith, CEO of the New Zealand Olympic Committee. Human rights. A transgender has no right to do that. A transgender has no right to go in the opposite sex's bathroom. Period. You don't have a right to do that. Now, I want to talk about the transgender suicide statistics. In 2008, National Transgender Discrimination Study, 45% of 18 to 24-year-old transgender people had attempted suicide in their lifetimes. 45%, ladies and gentlemen. Other studies revealed that 28% to 52% of transgender people have attempted suicide. Now, the data from adolescents, this is ages 11 to 19, were collected over a 36-month period from June 2012 to May 2015. Here are the results of that study, the data. Nearly 14% of adolescents reported a previous suicide attempt. Female to male adolescents reported the highest rate of attempted suicide, 50.8%, that's over half by the way. Male to female adolescents, 29.9%. Adolescents who identified as not exclusively male or female, 41.8%. Questioning adolescents, 27.9%. Female adolescents, 17.6%. Male adolescents, 9.8%. The American Academy of Pediatrics in September 12, 2018. More than 50% of transgender male teens who participated in the survey reported attempting suicide in their lifetime. Over half. Over half. You hear me? Over half. Male teens. 29.9% of transgender female teens said they attempted suicide. Non-binary youth, 41.8% of respondents stated that they had attempted suicide at some point in their lives. Trends in suicide death risk in transgender people results from the Amsterdam cohort of gender dysphoria study from 1972. They did this study from 1972 to 2017. Suicide risk in transgender people is higher than in the general population and seems to occur during every stage of transitioning. Demonic. Hostile wants you to kill yourself. Hostile wants you to murder yourself, because that's what suicide is, self-murder. Hostile wants you to do that. And the Torah tells you, it doesn't say thou shalt not kill. It says thou shalt not murder. You will not murder. Murder is a sin. And like I said this before, and I've had someone tell me, well, if you kill someone, you've committed a sin. I said, no, I haven't. I said, if I murder someone, I've committed a sin. If someone breaks into the house and I'm defending my family and we get into a struggle and this individual happens to die, I have killed this individual. That's not a sin. If I go out and I just take someone's life, just take it, that's murder. That's the sin. See, again, you have to study the Torah to understand that. If you don't have a foundation on it, you're gonna add to it, take away from it. We're guilty of that, by the way. So you got to study Torah so you don't add to or take away from it. You got to know the Torah. Remember what I said earlier? Like the changing of the water by the coffee bean, you have the power to change yourself, both mentally and more importantly spiritually. You have to change the way you think, one step at a time. Like that coffee bean that makes that water stronger and stronger. The more and more you get into the Word, the Torah, and learn it, and not just learn it, but walk it, then you're going to get stronger and stronger. Because see, you can resist the devil. That's simple. Name Yeshua. Flee, Hasatan, or rebuke Hasatan, you demons. Well, flee. They have to flee. They have to. You put on that full armor and all, Hasatan can't touch you. So remember what I said, and I'll leave you with this. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become action. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, they become your destiny. That goes for transgenders, homosexuals, and anybody, I'm talking about anybody that rebels against the Torah. You rebel against the Torah, that becomes your destiny. You make it a habit of rebelling against the Torah, that's your destiny. You make it your habit to do what the Torah tells you to do, like what I said in James 1:22, be doers of the word, be doers of the Torah. The more you do that, like that coffee bean, you can get stronger and stronger, that relationship with Yehovah. Shalom Aleichem. May Yehovah be with you.